All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate you doing this, first of all. And this video will be the main lesson inside of our little sprint here on in our module on observation, all right, which is a leadership, but also a participant, an employee, a person, skill set or quality that we can improve on with a little bit of work. And I'll tell you a little bit about what it is, some examples of where it comes into play with business. And I think that's really important. That's one of my favorite parts of studying some of these EQ pieces. And then we'll show some examples of high and low competence to help us all, you and I both, kind of um, identify where we think we may fall and some of the things that we're good at and maybe some of the opportunities. And then we'll land with three practice activities. Okay, so we'll do that. I'll wrap up at the end of this with a little bit of direction as well. But we're talking about the space in our personhood that's focused on social awareness. So utilizing all of our own qualities in connection with interacting with other people, and just kind of being aware of what's going on before we actually put a lot of things in motion. All right, so social awareness is kind of a cool space. And the people that we typically rate really high on connectivity rate pretty high in social awareness. And we're going to talk specifically about observation, right? The skill of observation. And really what we're talking about with that is this ability to this focus on interpersonal dynamics that are going on, watching and noticing how other people are interacting with each other, not just kind of skimming by it, but kind of being able to take a look and seeing it. Listening to others when we're talking about noticing and watching, and we can do that with our ears too. So really listening to see what's going on there. And then taking that one next step, I think, is actually like learning from that experience. Like we get into once we get good at observation, we can also leverage our observation skills into what we call anticipation, right? Using that to say what might come next. And that's a whole nother EQ skill. Love to get into that if we want as well. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about observation. You can think about teams, you can think about your team, you can think about meetings you're in, you can think about even looking in the wellness center and observing. You can see what's going on, but really like who's there, how are they interacting with each other, what mood are they in, things like that, right? That's observing. So what's the qualities and the benefits for this? When we talk about business impact as well, you can play around with your own interpretation of what you think is valuable for personal lives. But in business, these have amazing, amazing benefits. All right, this is where we start going up in the upper echelon of leadership and management and team interaction. Quite frankly, it allows you to make better decisions because the better you are at observing, you can really think that you're better at being a private eye, if you will, right? Picking up clues, chasing down clues, interpreting clues. And so you use that intelligence, that intel, to help you make better decisions, all right? As opposed to missing all of that and just like saying, let's grab that idea and running with it, right? We're observing, and we use that observation to kind of think, oh, okay, let this is the right way to go because I know what's going on there. So that's really important. On an interpersonal level, people high in observation typically, typically create teams of higher morale and higher engagement. All right, and that kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like you're seeing your people around you, whether it's a peer team member or somebody you're responsible for, or even your boss. And it's like I'm kind of observing that. I feel the vibe. I'm kind of humming along with that. So the morale seems to be better, and then we're syncing up, and so our engagement's better. Okay, and if you partner up on an activity and you're a good observer, that's just a great byproduct. Here's one that I really love though. Because of high observation qualities, right, you can spot conflict easier, right? Of course, that makes sense as well. And the value of spotting conflict easier, you can do all kinds of things with that, by the way. We don't get hijacked by conflict in the last second. We can see it a mile away and either avoid it, like, I don't want to be part of that, I'm going over here, or we have enough time to see it and plan for it and intervene, interject, and influence the outcome of it. Okay, so really, really valuable. And then the last one, I kind of think of this as kind of master degree level of observation, is we can use that skill to identify the real causes for problems, right? And sometimes the real causes for problems are often hidden, or even with people that we might be dealing with vulnerable topics, they may kind of try to bury or turn away from, right? Or masquerade with some other problem. You ever had that happen? It's like, that's not really the issue. This is the issue. Well, our observation skills at a high level allow us to discern that and sometimes be the savior of the whole situation, because we're like, I really think I see and hear a little bit of this in here. Would you be okay if we dive into that? And you're using high observation skills to really get to the heart of the matter and identify real causes. Yeah, so does that make sense? That's big impact. Makes teams better. You can manage teams better. Just all kinds of great benefits. Okay, we'll get to how we get better at this in just a second. But let's talk about what low competence looks like. All right, so what are some things that show up when we don't do this well? Well, typically, we tend to be very introverted, meaning I'm just within myself. I'm not comfortable kind of peering out or interacting out. I'm very introverted, okay? People that speak like 2, 3, 4 times as much as they listen, low confidence as far as observation, okay? Because we're busy communicating outbound as opposed to being a private eye and taking things inbound. Right? It makes sense. Highly emotionally charged people, not good as observation, right? Because again, we're expressing ourselves as opposed to being observational and taking things in, okay? Distracted with technology. So again, we're too busy. We're busy doing stuff, seeing stuff, ingesting stuff, so we miss the stuff that we're supposed to be seeing and looking at. All right. And again, all of that I think is just this perception of being focused on your own agenda. Again, pointed inward focus versus outward focus. All right. So just the opposite would describe high confidence. Okay. So outward, other focused, carefully watching people. All right. So a tendency to carefully watch somebody, other people perceive social cues, especially nonverbals. We don't need words all the time. We're so intent and observational that we can see nonverbals, and that clues us into how things are going. Asking questions to learn, and very alert and attentive. All right, so that's kind of the high competence and low competence. It doesn't mean you're one or the other, but if you sense some connection to a couple of low competence, this is your invitation to say, hey, I could do some more work on this, right? Or even if a couple of the high competence ones ring a bell with you, you could still say, hey, these other ones don't, and I'd like to focus on that area. All right. So I've given thought to 3 practices that I'd like you to take on, and you could just jot these down. You could listen to this again. This is about the 8-minute mark in the video. And so if you want to just speed back up to that and do that, that's fine. Or you can hold, get a piece of paper. We'll do these 3 practices, and pick one of them that resonate with you, and then if you feel like you've had time on that, we can do activity number 2 possibly. All right, and then go to 3. All right, the first one is called take notes of emotion. All right, take notes of emotion. So what you want to do is the next time you're in a meeting, you take a notepad in, and we're observant, we're playing our part, or maybe taking notes on the meeting. Set aside a little bit of your page or the bottom of the page or something to take notes just on the emotions going on. Observe certain things just with the people that have nothing to do with the agenda. All right, so write down your description of emotions. You can privately put a name attached to that if you want, but what emotion? We see anger, we see fear, we see excitement, we see enthusiasm. All right, and then maybe even put some details as far as how you see and connect to the patterns of behavior and interactions that are going on. Just make some notes. All right, if you do some writing, you're going to really be kind of eyes open and private eyeing it a little bit, as they say. Okay, so that's just called take notes on emotions. All right, and you can do that in a meeting, and that's just practice observing. All right, the second one is what I like to call one thing at a time. Okay, and this is another observation, just helping our brain connect purposely with a goal that we have. All right, and so what you're going to do is in an interaction, a meeting is helpful so you're not put on the spot. One-on-one interactions are really challenging because we want to kind of split our mind a little bit. We want to participate in one-on-one dialogue, but what I would like you to do is also pick a category and focus on one thing at a time, and I'll throw out some categories. So we want to take particular note of the mood. Just focus on the mood for a little bit. identify the mood, your mood, their mood, somebody else's mood, some observer's mood, somebody off in the distance, their mood. Just focus on mood. All right, don't go off. Just get that category done. All right, and if that's all you can do for one meeting, that's fine. If you get that done, you want to move on to a second category, then focus on posture, let's say. All right, and you can do clothes, you can do expressions, you can do eye color, but pick one thing at a time. Don't do a catalog of 5 things with one person. Do one category and do it with as many people around as often as you can in that particular interaction. Okay, again, this is just training our mind to observe, focus outwardly as far as opposed to inwardly and us occupying all the space. Okay, all right, the next one is a little bit more to do with our ears and the interactions we have while we're listening. And we can be listening in a participatory conversation, or we can just observe and watch something else that we're listening. All right. And what we're going to call this is the missing question. All right. So we have the missing question is ask yourself all the time when you're watching dialogue, what is not being said? Okay. So now you're kind of interpreting some things, you're looking, you're listening, you're observing, and is a hidden agenda. Is there something hidden there that you think would be great? You'd love to jump in as a play in the act, and just say, "Hey, this is what you both want to say. Let's just say it." Or I think one person's really curious about this. This is the missing question, right? So use what you're hearing to try to answer that question. What is not being said? All right. So take notes on emotion. Focus on one thing at a time and answer the missing question. Those are 3 activities. All right. I want you to pick one for sure. If you get a chance to do all 3, great. We'll try to do that for this next week. All right. And what you'll do then is throw a note in the chat whenever you want, and it'll date it so you can just take a look at that. And I'd like you to do 2 things. We'll just say this is a coaching session. So I want you to grade yourself 1 to 10 on your effort, not on your performance, on how you think you did with these practice activities, but just your attention and focus and effort. Okay, so could have a 9 effort with a low performance level. Like I still really struggle with this, but I tried hard and I tried every day. That'd be maybe a 9. Or it could be the reverse. My effort, I only did this 1 time this next week. I thought I did great, but my effort level, my focus and attention and effort level was a 4. All right, so practice, we get better through practice, and so we want to practice. Okay, that's a quality that we want to do when we're trying to improve things here. But if you do that and just check in to how you would grade yourself, and then if you have a tidbit, a little check-in factoid, all right, normally we'd say, hey, check in with your coach, and if you want to pop in with each other and just have a dialogue about how this is going, that's fine too. But I'd love you to put that in chat and just make a comment saying, I've given myself an 8 this week, and this was my experience. This is what I chose, and this is my experience. Maybe just 3 lines, something very, very simple. And that would help us all be accountable to each other. I'll participate just as well to this. Okay, so hopefully this is easy. There's a couple other supporting things in here that I'll put in there too. I think one video, another supporting document you can look at and kind of help support this idea of observation and what we're working on. All right, look forward to it, and I'll see you out on the practice field.